Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to Synth Stuff. I'm back. How you been? Let's talk about NAMM. So I've started, and I gotta apologize for my shirt. If you look, I've got cat fur all over me, and up here I've got some stains. I was working on some fiberglass in the other room and managed to get this crap on me and didn't realize it until after I was editing this video, so that's why I look like this. All right, let's start again. So I've started and scrapped this video probably 3 times now. I did one because Bo Beats did a video and he was talking about toxicity and positivity, and that one really spoke to me when he was talking, and I thought, yeah, he really gets it. He knows what's going on. He understands. I just wanted to say thank you, because my last video, I had really had it. I really thought, that's it, I'm done with videos. I wasn't so furious, I was just frustrated that all this work that I was doing was just going out and just being crapped on and not appreciated. And I couldn't have been more wrong, as evidenced by the almost 3,000 comments that I got on my last video, almost universally just supportive comments saying, we love what you're doing, please don't quit, I've learned so much from you and I really appreciate your videos. Just the outpouring of positivity was just overwhelming, and I really wasn't expecting that. It really took me back, and it kind of took me from, yeah, that's it, I'm never doing this again, to, okay, yeah, how can I abandon these people who are like online friends, the people I actually interact with on a daily basis. Normally, I will go and respond to every comment that gets posted on my videos, but when it's thousands and thousands of comments, I couldn't keep up. Just know that I have read every one of those 3,000 comments, and I so appreciate everything you said. For a while, I tried to start responding, and I realized this is hopeless because they're coming in faster than I can actually respond to them. So I have taken a few weeks off, and I desperately needed that. It was really nice to not be under the gun, to get videos out on a weekly schedule like I had been. I may or may not do that in the future. I may just do them when they occur to me and I feel like doing them. So thank you. Thank you to Bo Beats. Thank you to the Synth Samurai. Just a upstanding guy, really nice guy. He reached out, and we had some pretty decent conversations. I did not know his channel, and I've since joined his channel, and if you haven't, go on over and check out Synth Samurai. He has a very unique mix of synthesizers and pro wrestling, and he's got a character that he does. Anyway, I can't explain it. You just have to go see it for yourself, but he's a really nice guy, really smart guy. He's worth joining his channel and checking out his videos. He does a lot of live stuff too, and he knows a lot about synths. And plus, he's also a fellow Canuck. He's also from Canada originally, just like I am. So enough of that. I'm no longer going to address any of that stuff. Going forward, we're going to be talking about synthesizers, and if there are trolls in the comments, so be it. Don't care. On we go. NAMM 2025. There was some big announcements. There were some absolute lack of announcements from some manufacturers. Now it's over, and I thought I would go through the list of releases and announcements and things of synthesizers that I thought were reasonably significant, or maybe not significant in what they contained. I have written up a list of all the different ones here and what I thought about each one. So let's talk about what was announced at NAMM this year and what I think. So who announced nothing? Well, looking at you, Yamaha. Really, they had one of the biggest booths. They had big performances in the stage. Yamaha does it big at NAMM, and they had absolutely nothing really to announce, at least in the way of synthesizers. They announced the firmware update for the Montage M, but that's cheating. It was actually released a couple weeks before NAMM, and it was really just a bug fix. There was hardly any new functionality in that. So nothing from Yamaha at all. However, Roland hit the ground running with their V-Stage. So years ago they had their V-Synth and the V-Synth GT, which were performance-oriented synths, and they had the D-Beam and all that kind of stuff on there. So this is kind of in response to Nord and the Yamaha CP and the CK and all that kind of stuff. So all the performance-based synths that have multiple engines. The Roland V-Stage is no different. Has 4 engines. It has a tone wheel organ. Has the V piano with a bunch of different pianos that you can put in it. Has an EP engine, so various electric pianos. You can put Wurlitzer or Rhodes and that sort of thing in there. And then it has 2 synth engines that are basically just Zencore. And you can load a model expansion. So if you want to load a Juno 106 in there, you can do that. And then some effects. And then it's in a nice looking board with lots of hands-on controls. So why is Roland doing this? Because if you think about it, for the same price you can buy this new V-Stage synth, you can buy a Phantom. And the Phantom has all of those. The Phantom has a tone wheel organ. It has the V piano. It has the EPs. Now, granted, they're not dedicated EP engines. They're Zencore EPs. And then it has way more capabilities as a synthesizer. You have ACB in there. You have the enzyme engine in there, which this new stage doesn't do. So I'm not quite sure what this is actually intended for. Both are top-of-the-line professional synthesizer keyboards. They are both available in different sizes. They both you can either have weighted, fully weighted 88 key or synth action. The Phantom has a much bigger screen. It has the same controls you can use for the tone organ. I'm not quite sure why you would buy the V-Stage GT over a Phantom. The Phantom does everything that the V-Stage does and more for the same price. So who is Roland targeting with this, or is it they just have to keep up with the Joneses because Yamaha and Nord has these performance-oriented key beds or key synthesizers out, and so they need to do it as well? I'm not sure. So the Kurzweil K2061 and 2088. Back in the 1990s, Kurzweil had a K2000, which was a Rompler. It had its vast synth engine, which is a very flexible synth engine in that you can do a lot of modulation. There's a lot of modulation sources and destinations, kind of like the Hydrasynth. So they have re-released kind of like a low-end version of the K2000 with some updated stuff in it. It now has a FTAR key bed like the Modal here. So it has a FTAR key bed with, I want to say channel aftertouch. I don't think it's polyphonic. A channel aftertouch has a ribbon like the Hydrasynth does. It does have the same vast engine in it that you can directly import DX7 SysX patches into it, so it will play DX7 things. It's kind of like a scaled down K2700, where like the Montage would be the K2700 and the MoDX would be the K2061 that they've got now. It does have the same small screen. They didn't update that, and it kind of sounds dated. I mean, it does sound like a 90s Rompler still. It hasn't changed that much internally. And it's expensive. For the 61 key, it is $2,200. For the Hammer Action 88 key, they want $3,000 for that. So if you are a big Kurzweil fan, maybe that will get you excited. Myself, I've never really gotten into Kurzweil. I just don't gel with the user interface, the engine. I mean, they sound good to a point, but they just have not been my synth. I've never had a Kurzweil. I've played them, but I'd never owned one. All right, on to Korg. The big nothing burger from Korg was the Kronos 3. Yes, we're releasing the Kronos, and it's pretty much exactly the same as the Kronos 2. It has the exact same 9 engines. It boots up 60% faster. Whoop-de-doo. I guess maybe in live instances, if it crashes, the fact that it boots up faster is great, I guess. It has some more multi-samples in it, and the SSD inside it is larger. But other than that, it's exactly the same as the Kronos 2, so who cares? I guess if you want a new Kronos, then you're going to get the Kronos 3. It has these tiny little upgrades of the Kronos 2. You're probably better off buying a Kronos 2 used, because the 3 isn't that much of an upgrade. The Korg Multi-Poly, I love this thing. They released a module version of it that you can rack mount. So you have the 37 key, like the format of the Wave State and the Op6 that I have up here, or you can get that module, which you can also get these two in that module form as well. They also released the Monopoly native plugin software for your DAW, and it is a fully functional version of the Monopoly for $200, whereas the hardware Monopoly, I think the hardware, the module, I think is around $800. I didn't write a lot of these prices down. So that said, I think the Monopoly is a classic in the making. It's got the four multi-timbral. I've talked about the multi-poly before. I have the Gaia 2, which has some overlap with the monopoly. I keep calling it monopoly. It's multi-poly. The Korg multi-poly. The monopoly was the original Korg. I actually made this comment a while ago where I thought Korg did themselves a disservice in calling the multi-poly and trying to hook it to this classic monopoly, because what they share is almost nothing. They're just trying to go off the name. And when I first saw the multi-poly come out, and I thought, oh, who cares? Big deal. It's just a monopoly, which is just like a scaled down poly 6, and it's nothing major. But what the multi-poly is and does is light years beyond what a monopoly was capable of. So I don't know why they called it that, other than try to get some juice from the name, but I honestly don't think they did themselves a favor, because it has almost nothing to do with a monopoly. It has that crazy 4-layer engines, 4-layer multi-timbral, so it's almost like 4 separate synth engines that are all identical, that you can have separate sounds in. You got the sequencing 2.0, all the good stuff. And I've talked about the multi-poly before in my, I think it was my best synths of 2024 video. Anyway, so if you want to see more about that, you can go in there. They released that. I think I may end up getting the native version. If you buy the hardware, you can buy the native version for $50. If you just want the native version and you don't already own the hardware, it's $200. I'd love to have a multi-poly keyboard, physical keyboard in here. Where would I put it? I don't use the Op6 much. Maybe I should sell the Op6 and buy a multi-poly. What do you think? Leave it in the comment section below if you think I should replace my Op6 with a multi-poly. What else came from Korg? Well, a while ago in 2021, Korg came out with the miniKorg 700 FS, which was a remake of the original 700S from 1974. Why they decided to do that, I don't know. I guess all these synth manufacturers trying to capture the classic synths of yesterday that they were producing. Anyway, it's that weird looking one that has all the controls in the front like they used to do on synthesizers, because that's how organs used to work. And the original synthesizer manufacturers were organ manufacturers, and they had the controls down below the manual, the organ manual. So anyway, so that's how they did it back then, and they kind of brought that across. It's, I think, stupid to do that today, but they are. Anyway, so at NAMM, Korg announced that they have the miniKorg S700SM, which is a new version of this, but it's got mini keys. So it's a little tiny version of this. I'm not sure who this is for. Who's buying this? I mean, it's pretty limited in what it can do and the sounds it can create. That said, the original 700FS release sold out of every one that they made. So obviously somebody wants it, but it sure isn't me. All right, I'm going to skip over these because I want to come back to them. Akai announced, well, it wasn't really Akai's announcement, it was Native Instruments' announcement, but Akai was the first one to announce it, that they are adding the ability to run Native Instrument NTS plugins on their NPC hardware. So this got people all kinds of excited, because all those Native Instrument plugins that are available, all the different synth engines, are now going to be able to run natively in MPC. And those same plugins are now also going to be appearing in new hardware from Korg, M-Audio, and Novation. So we're going to see a lot more of the Native Instruments plugins running in a lot of different pieces of hardware, which is interesting. I don't know if they are doing a licensing deal, or are they going to open source the plugin format. It would be interesting to see if other people start making those plugins as well. Kind of like Steinberg did with their VST format plugins for DAWs years ago. They opened that up. You didn't need a license. You could just develop to the standard and it would work in DAWs. Donner is a Chinese manufacturer. It's not been around too long. I have a Donner looper pedal that works very well. Their stuff is interesting and it's extremely low cost, and they have some really innovative features. They announced the Essential L1, which is a new synthesizer inspired by a SH-101, which I have over there. Although it has some differences, like it has two envelopes. The original SH-101 has one envelope that's shared between the amplifier and the filter. This one has two. Kind of like the Tubotech upgrade that I put in my SH101 gives you a second envelope that you can separate between the two, just like that. So it's kind of the same idea. It is a mono synth. It comes as a module, but then they have this mini keyboard that connects to it with magnets that can then play it using that little mini keyboard, or you can actually separate that and plug it into other Donner products, or you can use it as an independent MIDI controller and plug it into any synthesizer. That's kind of a neat idea. Modal Carbon8m, they announced the module version of their Carbon 8. The Carbon 8 came out a little while ago. I know they're shipping them. People are starting to get them now. They have the module version now, which is not like the 5S or the Cobalt 5S, which was a cut down in terms of features from the Cobalt 8. This is a full-featured Carbon 8 module that has all the functionality and all the voices of the full 37-key synthesizer. All the stuff that the Carbon 8 has, 2 oscillators, 56 waveforms, all that good stuff. It's $850 for that module, which I think is going to hurt them. I don't know if they're going to sell a whole lot of those modules at $850, considering that the Mod Wave from Korg is less than that, and it kind of duplicates a lot of what's in the Carbon 8, or especially the multi-poly. The multi-poly module is the same price as the Carbon 8 module. And if you're going to pick one of those two, go for the multi-poly. So I'm not quite sure who the market is for the Carbon 8 module. Hopefully it'll do well for Modal, because I really want to see Modal survive. I really like their stuff. I especially like the Carbon 8. The filter models in the Carbon 8 are just so good. Nonlinear Labs, that makes that incredible and incredibly expensive C15. What a synthesizer that thing is. They issued a firmware update, announced it at NAMM, that adds polyphonic aftertouch to the C15. No, it doesn't add it to the keybed, it adds it to the engine. So you have to have a polyphonic aftertouch keybed or MIDI controller or synthesizer that can send polyphonic aftertouch via MIDI to the C15, and it now allows you to modulate and route and do functions within the C15 based on polyphonic aftertouch. That's nice. It does boost the polyphony, however, from 28 to 48 voices, only at its 48 kilohertz setting, however. If you go to 96 kilohertz, you're still down at 24 voices. But it's kind of cool that they added the ability through firmware to almost double the number of voices that you could have coming out of that. All right, so now the big one. The big one is the big manufacturer. This is the manufacturer who has not exhibited at NAMM for 10 years, who said they will never exhibit at a trade show again, but screw all that, because they're back. It's Behringer, of course. Behringer walked in there and people thought, okay, we're going to see something here. There's going to be a reason why Behringer is actually coming back to NAMM this year, and they were not wrong. The one that everybody's talking about, of course, the Behringer BX-1. It is a clone of the Yamaha DX-1. The DX-1 is the most rarest of the DX family. It's basically 2 DX7s in a single cabinet. You can layer them, you can split them. The DX-1 is extremely rare. When you do find one for sale, they're typically $10,000, so it's a very rare synthesizer. The Behringer BX-1 looks like a DX1. It's crazy how they recreated the look and the feel of it. They don't have the membrane buttons, but they still have the same kind of look, and they have the 7-segment displays for all the parameters, controls. But then they didn't stop there. They added to it. They added analog filters to this. They created an analog filter board and modeled it after the CS80 filters and added that into it. And if you think about it, this thing has 32 voices, which means it has 32 separate analog filters in there, because each voice needs its own filter. So they've crammed 32 filters, analog filters, into this thing. And then they have also added on a set of effects, digital effects, you know, chorus and reverb and delay and so on. The demo unit they had at NAMM was functional except for the effects. They did not have the effects running yet in it, so it's a pre-production prototype, but it looks really cool. Next, and this is the one I think is going to be just a super hit for Behringer, is the Pro-16. It is a clone of the Prophet 5. However, it has 16 voices in it. It looks just like a Prophet. Just like the BX-1, you look at it quickly and you think, oh, that's a DX1. Well, the Pro-16, you look at it really quickly and you think, oh, that's a Prophet. Until you start looking closer and you're like, oh, no, it's not. It just looks like a Prophet, which is cool, I guess. There were a number of different Prophet revisions, and each one worked in a different way. They had different filters. They had different behaviors and sound capabilities depending on what revision. So if you had a Prophet, you had a Prophet Rev 2, Prophet Rev 3. Well, the Behringer version of the Pro-16, you can change which rev it's emulating. So if you wanted a sound that only a Rev 1 could make, then hey, you can do that. And if you want to switch it later and it's got a Rev 3, you can do all that kind of stuff with a software switch. It has multi-mode filters, unlike the original, so it's going to have more flexibility in what it can do tonally with those sounds. It has atrophy settings like most of the ACB synths do, where you can tell it, hey, make it simulate that the synthesizer is old and worn out with failing capacitors and that sort of thing, and it becomes a little less accurate in tuning and that sort of thing. It does have polyphonic aftertouch. I know Behringer is getting big into the polyphonic aftertouch. Nice to see that they have it in this one. This is a production prototype, so fully functional, almost ready to go to market. A couple other, not quite announcements, but updates. The Behringer LM Drum, the LM Drum, they did a firmware update. It's a copy of the Lin Drum. When they originally released it, Roger Lin, the designer of the Lin Drum, said that Behringer had copied some limitations in tuning that he had in the original that he wasn't able to get around, and Behringer had dutifully copied those limitations into its LM Drum. And he said, you know, I don't know why they would do that. Why wouldn't they just allow it to do work without limitations? So Behringer said, huh, fine, we'll do it. So they issued this firmware update that removes those tuning limitations and also fixed a bunch of bugs. And the last one from Behringer was the JT-16, which is Behringer's 16-voice version of a Jupiter 8. It is a fully analog synthesizer. They have been teasing this one forever. They've shown us pictures of the board with the rows of chips with all the voices and filter chips in there. It's not yet functional at the one they had at the show. However, it looks like a Jupiter 8, just a little bit smaller. The controls are a little bit shorter. They don't need all the huge space to have all those massive boards inside like the Jupiter 8 did, because now we have these tiny surface mount components, so they can make things smaller. So all the controls are in the same layout, but they're smaller. I see what Behringer is doing. They're going after the big guns, the Jupiter 8, the DX1, the synthesizers that are so expensive that the regular people cannot afford to buy one. So they're making inexpensive versions of them, which is great for them. I fully expect to see a Behringer CS80 soon for that same reason. So we get the Pro-16. Yeah, I mean, if you have a $4,000 Prophet, or maybe you can get the same thing from Behringer for $900, get the $900 one. And then unavailable things that haven't been made in decades, like the Lin Drum, and the existing examples are so expensive. Yeah, Behringer Lin Drum, or LM Drum, that you can get for a fraction of the cost. I didn't mention the Wave because they didn't release an update for it, but that's another one. PPG Waves, crazy expensive, and they're kind of fragile, and the technology is really old because it's 1980s technology. Behringer has their Wave, which is an exact copy of the original PPG Wave, but with additional functionality. And again, it looks just like it. It's got those Commodore 64 kind of keycaps on there and everything. That's a really cool synthesizer. The Native Instruments announcement, I think that's going to be interesting. I'm going to reserve my judgment on that until I see how it pans out. Donner, I think, is going to be one to watch over the next couple of years. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting and low-cost stuff coming from Donner soon. Modal, I sure hope Modal makes it. They've done some interesting things. They've lost their entire design team, so I don't know who's doing the design on them now, but at least their website is up and it's not serving out malware like it has for the last 2 years. Hopefully, Modal's on the way up. And then, of course, the C15. I wish I could have C15, but, you know, I can't afford a mortgage on a synthesizer. That's it. That's it for my recap of NAMM 2025. What do you think? Do you have any comments or suggestions? Is there one that I left out that you think I should have covered, or one that I covered that you didn't think deserved to be in there? Leave it in the comments section below. And if you like my channel, click like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you guys.